Hello and welcome. I'm Garima, and joining me on the Dais today is Pietro from Baker Hughes. Thank you so much for joining me today, Pietro, and looking forward to an interesting conversation with you. I've been following your posts on LinkedIn, and you're posting some amazing content out there, and I have been looking forward to this conversation for a long time now. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure. It's a very big pleasure for being here.
Pietro, let's begin with your story. What has been your unique motivation behind joining the oil and gas industry?
That's a very interesting question, I would say. So I'm a mechanical engineer by degree,
Right.
and I started my career in a different industry. I was working for Ferrari. I was in the automotive industry. Amazing experience. I absolutely don't regret anything about that. The reason why I wanted to change and the reason why I changed were, I would say, mainly two. The first one was the opportunity that I was given by the company. At that time, the company was GE, General Electric, and then it became Baker Hughes. And the role was a leadership program. So actually, these are rotational programs that people in their early career can apply for doing. And you actually have the chance to see many different roles, many different sides of the company. And so this huge chance, improved my experience, broaden my view on the company. That was one of the biggest driver. And the second one is that being a multinational company, I really wanted to travel the world a little bit, having the chance to speak with people from different cultures, different places around the world. And being in a very global company gave me that opportunity. So I would say these two things mainly.
Right. And would you say that being a part of this industry actually empowers you to make an impact in the global community?
Yes, no, that's for sure. That's for sure. And I think that everything starts with yourself as well. You can start making an impact in your life in the sense of your personal experience. I got to know people from, coming from Europe, people from places that for us are very exotic. I would say, Kazakhstan, even China. I would say something. Middle East. I have a lot of friends from Saudi. Probably with another job and another path of my career, I wouldn't get the chance to know all of these people and enrich myself at first. And then, when you change yourself, of course, you can make an impact in your little world and then in the society.
Absolutely. Pietro, tell us about your current role. What does it look like? What does a typical day at work look like? And what do you enjoy the most about your profession and some of the challenges that you find really proud to have overcome? What would you tell us?
So yeah, on my current role, I'm actually finishing the leadership program, the graduate program I was telling you before. So this is my fourth rotation, so my fourth different role since I started.
Mm-hmm.
And currently I'm working in sourcing. So strategic sourcing for raw materials. So essentially, we are trying to find global suppliers for raw material that can serve our whole company. When you have such a big company, which is divided in sub companies, it's very important to find a way to leverage all of the power that you have as a whole, and not always go as a single sub companies. So this is what we try to do. We try to find synergies and essentially, find the best quality at the best price. And it's, I would say, biggest challenges are for sure, be impactful, especially right now with COVID. We had this huge project that was supposed to bring so much savings. And then because of COVID, we had a huge cancellation of orders. It has been a very tough time. So being motivated, keep on going, find another way to make the difference and to target the result. That was tough for sure. And then there is a big part that I enjoy about, let's say, soft skills. So you are interfacing, you're talking with people from different places in the world, and so not all the people have the same sensibility, have the same sense of humor, have the same way to interact with each other. And so that's very interesting.
That's
And, yeah.
actually very interesting. And I'm glad you pointed that out, because considering the current times that we are in, and we do not know how things would evolve in the times to come, the younger generation, especially the class of 2020, is very apprehensive. They do not
Yeah.
know what should be their next step, and even whether this is the right time to launch their career. And if we talk
Mm.
about soft skills and emotional intelligence at this point of time, how do you think they would play a very, very crucial role in the times that we are in?
I I think that they play, they play a crucial role. And let me give you a couple of examples. So why do I think, for example, that soft skills will play even a more important role in the oil and gas industry, especially for new graduates?
Right.
If you're going to go and you already know that you want to be in the oil and gas industry, chances are that you are probably an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
It's most of the people. So and I'm talking because me myself, I am an engineer. We have a very good critical mindset. We can develop some um, good reasoning, structure, way of thinking, good with numbers maybe. Sometimes we're not that good in interacting with people. Soft skills are not, let's say, the first thing we are known for.
Right.
So that's why, if you want to come in this industry and you have to compete with other engineers, people that on average have, you know not so great, let's say, soft skills, because of our education, because of all of our path during the university, having the ability to leverage your interpersonal skills will add you those things to your toolbox that will actually make the difference. That's why I think it's very important in general, but for engineers, for people in the oil and gas, maybe even more,
Mm-hmm.
because can actually make the difference. And then another thing, about again, the interpersonal skills, how motivated you are at work,
Yes.
how good you can interact with people. Because of my YouTube channel, which
Mm-hmm.
is Tales of Startup, I am interviewing a lot of founders,
Yes.
and executives from big companies. And I like to end all of the interviews asking them, what are the main things that you look for when you have to hire someone?
Right.
And most of the time, like 90% of the time, they talk about soft skills,
Mm-hmm.
because they say, probably when you're out of the university, yeah, you have some hard skills, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't know how to deliver the job. You don't know how to do the job. We will teach you that. What we cannot teach you, or what is very much more difficult to teach you, is how to interact with people, how to be good with people, how to effectively work in a team. So it's a very required. Those are very required skills in the industry.
Very true, very true. And if you had to name top three soft
Hmm.
skills that would really make a difference, what would those be?
Nice, very, very, very interesting point. So I would say, for sure, many, and I'm thinking about all the answers that I got from founders, executives, and etc. Self-driven, we can, call it like that. So, the ability of, and the willingness, more than the ability, of doing that extra mile to deliver the results. So being interested, being involved, and still linked to that, maybe can be a second skill, interest, in the sense that show me that you want to work for my company, or for me, for a specific reason, not just because you need a job.
Right.
That's very interesting. And also, when you're preparing the interview, there are some best practice that we should do to be able to show ourselves interested and knowing what the company is doing. Then for sure, I would say, okay, let's include these with the first point. Other 2 points: public speaking and team working.
Right.
And we can learn all of that. I mean, it's not. I remember I was very interested in public speaking, and I thought that people were bored with that. So it's something inside you. You are extrovert. You are charismatic, and this is something that you have, which is not 100% sure. We can actually learn that, and it's very interesting.
Right.
So yes, I would say those 3 things.
Right. And in this same context, when you talk about being involved and showing that you are really interested in a particular area of work, in a particular organization, we receive a lot of messages on LinkedIn, right, from students who are looking for jobs. But most often you will find that the content and the context is missing. The last person I was interviewing, he said, I just receive a hi, I'm looking for a job on LinkedIn. Now, how would you advise the students or the aspiring candidates to approach an individual, a senior professional, or a hiring manager in some other company? How should they go about it?
That's very interesting. And so I would say that we can use some of the principles, some of these principles that I would like to share. Those are kind of the same principle that we can use in our cover letter, for examples.
Right.
So you're interested in one company. One of the first things that you can do is go to the company website and take a look at that. You know, companies like to for people to know what they're doing and their brand to become more famous and more spread worldwide. So go in the company website. Let's see which are the values of the company. What are the initiatives that these companies are doing, or this company is doing? Right. And who are the key people? Maybe, for sure, maybe they are super high level, but maybe you can find someone who's more reachable. And you can start connecting with them. You can start connecting on LinkedIn with your peers. So people that have your same qualification, your same role in that organization, instead of going directly to the HR person. Right. And then, of course, adding the HR. Then, if you write a message, probably you're connected on LinkedIn. So take your time, go through his or her LinkedIn profile. There is an area, it's called activities. Click on activities, click on post, and you can see all of the posts that he or she has shared. And maybe, trying to find something, because in the very first line, what we would like to do with this person is to create a connection. And to create a connection with someone, either I tell you something that you don't know, or we know someone in common. So for example, I know Jeff, and he told me about you, blah, blah, blah. And so we create a connection. Yes. Or we need to have some same interests. We need to have something in common. And so you could start, you find a post that is interesting. You can start simply commenting on that. It mustn't be like too pleasant or, too artificial, too fake. Yes, just simply your honest opinion on something that was cool for you. Right. And then you go from there, and you describe yourself very briefly. Don't be long, and just say that you would like to connect and know something a little bit more about the company, about that initiative, about this coming event, or whatever. So so you're giving a person like a reason to connect with you, and a reason to answer you.
That's a very, very valid point, actually. And since we're talking about LinkedIn messages or messages in general, it's part of the communication strategy, right? How you approach a person. When we are talking about this communication, resumes and cover letter, they also make a very huge difference here. The resume also is a part of your communication
Yeah.
strategy to reach out to your potential employer. How would you suggest the younger generation, the students, the professionals, to take note of some of the important things while preparing their resume? Because it becomes a part of your brand. It's not just a piece of paper or a document that you're sending across, right? It reaches the employer before you are
Exactly.
there in front of him or her.
Exactly. So, yeah, let me start by saying that there are some people who say that resumes are dead. It's false.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's almost like a side job for me to help people with their resumes. I have so many videos about that. I'm doing like a series of different webinars for
Yes.
university, helping people crafting their resume. And besides that, I tell you, it's a pain, making a good resume. So I wish they were dead, like for real, but they are not. They're extremely important because maybe the way you first reach a company can change, especially now with LinkedIn. But
Right.
sooner or later, they will ask for your resume. And we want it to be, we want it to be very impactful.
Mm-hmm.
So I will try to sum up very briefly which are the key points. And then if anyone wants to go a little bit more in depth on that, I would suggest you and will advise you, you can check my YouTube channel, Tales of Startup. You can add me on LinkedIn. I post videos on that, and um, because the topic it's pretty big.
Yes.
So I would say there are, for example, I crafted 4 principles that I would like to see in every resume. So the first one is that it has to be short. And by short, I mean 1 page.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, I know that many people have like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. It's too much. We are making, it's as you said, it's branding, it's advertising.
Right.
So if you have to sell these mobile, I don't come with a document this long where I list all of the characteristics of my phone. Okay, because those documents, it's called instruction booklet, but we
Mm.
don't sell phone with instruction booklet. We take 1 or 2 specifications.
Right.
Could be the camera, could be I don't know, the internet, how powerful it is, and we mark it on those specific characteristics. Same thing. So it got to be short. It has to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
And by clear, I mean not just that it has to be easy to be read and to go through. I mean that in 1 second, right under your name, I would like to see your job, your current role or your job qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who see your CV can immediately understand, okay, he or she is applying for these kind of roles.
Right.
And the third one is the most difficult one. Like many people are not doing that. Is
Mm-hmm.
that in each good resume, we want to have some numerical results.
Okay.
So for each job that you have done, for sure you brought a value to the company. And
Right.
most likely that value was some dollar. So
Mhm.
put that.
Right.
And and be short, just bullet points, few bullet points for
Mhm.
each role. And the last one, it has to be understandable by a non-technical person.
Yes.
So, for example, many times the first people who will see your resume are not super technical.
Mhm.
People in HR, of course, they know the job, they know the company, but maybe they are not very into each software, each single specifications. So try to avoid to use too many acronyms, for example.
Right. Right.
So those, in a nutshell, those are the advice that I would give.
Right. Right. And what is your take on adding social media profile links in the resume?
I really like to do that, like hyperlink. Many students, for example, they have certifications or portfolio with previous, where they can showcase previous experiences and that. So all of that, just 1 link, and use Google and find how can I create a short link. Okay, you can paste any very long link and it will come up just a very short one. So it doesn't even take too much space in your resume,
Mhm.
and you can hyperlink things. And yeah, and after that, in parallel with that, another thing that we could do is improving our LinkedIn profile.
Yes.
So, and that's another very interesting part. And yeah, if you want, we can go more into that, but I don't
No,
want to
yes,
be too
please,
long.
because I remember reading your LinkedIn profile description, the LinkedIn bio, and the cover page also
Yeah.
that I've noticed. There's this mechanical engineer during the day and business storyteller at night. Now, what I find interesting in this is you are telling people who you are rather than
Yeah.
listing down your roles and responsibilities and what you really are passionate about. That is something I find amazing in your bio, and it's just one line
Yeah.
that says a lot. How would you recommend people to go about this?
Okay. Yes, we need to be careful with that, let's say. So I am not currently looking for a job.
Yeah.
And so that gives me also, let's say, the freedom
Right.
to be even more myself on
Right.
LinkedIn. And then another thing that I would like to point out, I have I'm lucky because I'm working for a company that doesn't condemn, let's say, or doesn't look bad what I'm doing when
Mm-hmm.
I'm not working. So
Right.
all of the time that I spend making videos, doing webinars, all of these extra activities, they see that as an add value to the company. And actually those video things are helping me so much in my career within the company.
Right. Right.
And but this is something I know that I'm lucky because of that. Not all of the company would do that. So
Absolutely.
that's why I also feel free, as you see on my LinkedIn, for example, to to say, the business storyteller at night, YouTube content creator. So listing all of those things.
Right.
Something that I would advise to do for people who are actually looking for a job. So
Mm-hmm.
we have three main parts, 3/4 main parts in our LinkedIn. We have our header, which is the first thing that we see, usually 120 characters long. And then we have the bio, so
Yeah.
the about section,
Mm-hmm.
skills, and career. These, I would say, those are the most important parts of our LinkedIn, especially for skills, header, and about section. We need to find some keywords that are important and relevant to our for the industry that we want to work into, we want to work for, and try our best to include those skills and those important keywords in our header, about section, and skills.
Right.
Now, how can we do that? We can, for example, let's say we want to work in the oil and gas sector.
Mm-hmm.
We can go and look in websites like, Glassdoors, Indeed.com, Monster, all of these websites where you can find job openings.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to find as many job openings as possible that are suitable more or less for us.
Right.
Then we can go and see which are, we can use also an online tool to do that. It's called word clouds.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, if you want to, my videos, my lives on
Yes.
YouTube, all of that is listed. And so we can find which are the most recurrent keywords and skills in all of those job descriptions. So
Mm-hmm.
probably those are the most required skills and keywords in that industry. And we want to add that to our skills. If we need to ask, if you need to choose which are the 3 skills most important to include among all the one that I have,
Mm-hmm.
that's the way to find out.
Right. Right.
And so yeah, and I would say, for example, on the about section, to close the thing, yes, you can be short, but if you're looking for a job, try to find something for sure that describes yourself, maybe the first 1-2 lines,
Mm-hmm.
but then include some numerical results, describe a little bit your career. You still need to sell yourself.
Absolutely.
Uh, but yeah, include who you are, you can never go wrong. And I was very scared about doing that at the very beginning. But what I
Mm-hmm.
realized is that, if you don't like who I am and what makes me happy, probably, you're not the right company. I'm not the right
Right.
employee for you. Uh,
Right, right. And also, since we are under lockdown and there's social distancing, the social media consumption has increased, the online presence of everyone is increasing actually.
yeah.
In this regard, now we have something called digital resumes, virtual resumes, video interviews, and video resumes as well. How are you looking at this transition? And do you think they are here for some time now and we'll have to adjust to this new environment?
Um, I think, I don't know about, for example, the future about video resume or stuff. For sure, it's something that we need to be prepared for. That's for sure.
Right.
I'm still sure that sooner or later they will ask you for a piece of paper about yourself. But for example, video resumes, video presentation of yourself. This is another evergreen now. Another thing that's very used, very common right now. And video interviews without the other person, so that you are actually answering on a video, but you just see the question on the screen.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's important. We need to practice, and I think that practice is the way. And and maybe I can link again what I was telling about public speaking. We see people who deliver a very great presentation, who are incredible actors,
Right.
and we think that what we see is actually is happening right there in that very moment. It's
Right.
not.
Right.
Besides that, there are hours and hours and hours of work. Same thing we can and we should do for our videos interviews, our video resume. We should take the time, and I can, for example, share my best practice, let's say, for when I make my videos. I write a script for the video, and then you can read that, optimize it, see what makes sense, what it doesn't make sense, adjust it a little bit, and then you can, with that in mind, you don't have to learn all of that by heart, but you need to be extremely confident on how to link the different parts and your story, and then you want to try it. You want to try it 1, 2, 3, 4 times until it gets fluid.
Right.
Until, for example, when you stop and you're pressing from one part to another, for example, you're confident in stopping without saying because
Yes. Yes.
those are things we don't even pay attention to that.
Right. Right.
But when you hear you back and when you see your videos back, you say, oh, this is so bad.
Yes.
And so, but I would say practice. Write the script, make sure to highlight the most important points, and then try. And try to look at the camera.
Yes. That is something I also learned recently, because I used to look at the person and talk, but when you actually look at the recording, the eyeballs are shifted somewhere else. So that,
Exactly.
yes, that looks very weird actually. So yes, that's a very important point, Pietro. Now, since you're talking about public speaking, there's one thing that I'm particularly curious about. That is, there is a monologue and there is a dialogue, right? How does one ensure that you are not engaging in a monologue, because you need to hold the attention of the audience before you? And as you said, there's so many times we listen to some podcasts or speeches or people on the stage, but it feels like they're only talking to themselves about themselves, and we are not even being included in the conversation. And that is something that really puts us off as an audience. How
Yeah.
would you tell people to approach this? Because public
That's
speaking is not just a skill to have, it's something of a life skill, I would say.
exactly. And how you craft your
Right,
speech.
right,
Beside the delivery, also the preparation, that is where the magic happens, even much more than during your delivery.
Right.
That's a very interesting point, and it's something that, for example, by doing my videos, I am facing this thing so many times. It's so how can we engage with people? One thing, I would say the most important thing that we need to have clear in mind is that we are at their service. While we're presenting, we're not bragging ourselves. Even when you're presenting like your life, your skills, what you have done, it's not self-celebration. Is I don't have to show you, how good I am, because then you will hire me. Is how can I serve you? And the most important question is the famous, what's in for me? So what is the value that you can bring to the people who are listening? Mm-hmm. So for example, if we let's take again the example of the video resume. Why should people hire you? So what is the value that you as a professional you can bring to the company? And with having that in mind, your script, you will draft and craft your speech about the value that you can bring to them, and try to find analogies with what the company does and what you have done. We need to find some connections. Right. So to talk the same language that those people are speaking every day. So that's why we want to find as many common things as possible. So what's in for me? Trying to find links between your experience and the company. And again, that's where it comes extremely handy to go check and study the company website and all of the initiatives. What's in for me? Connections. And then another thing very important, when you're telling your story, because you want to make it sound and craft it as a story, when you're telling your story, don't feel ashamed and don't feel bad of including your emotions. Mm-hmm. And these maybe can be even more helpful when you're crafting and when you're answering a job interview question. And they ask you, I don't know, the classical question, tell me about one time when you had to face a difficult situation, right? You want to think about a story. And when you're telling the story, include some of the emotions. I felt frustrated because I couldn't deliver, and it really hurt me, as a person, because emotion connects. We want to create empathy. We are social animals and we are human. Right. So I would say these three things: what's in for them, connections, and don't be scared about emotions.
Beautifully articulated, I would say.
Thank you.
And Pietro, now, since we have discussed about Tales of Startup to some extent, but I want to understand the core inspiration behind this, and what really drives you to tell these stories, and what is your aim with this?
That's very interesting, I would say. So Tales of Startup is my YouTube channel, Instagram profile. And the aim is to help people succeeding and helping them, in their career or in their business. That's why I talk about business stories, business news. I interview startup founders, but at the same time, I'm talking to fresh graduates, talking about how to craft your resume, answer interviews, questions, because I think that whether you want to be a great employee or you want to be a great employer and found a great company, most of the things and the passion for business is the same. So that's why, and I called it Tales of Startup because I'm very interested in startup, but also because I like to talk about the startup phase, the very beginning. That's why we're talking about people in their early career, first 5-7 years, and startups. And then, of course, I have something about very established businesses, but more what can we learn from them as employer or employees. Right. And it started not so much time ago. It was almost, I would say, 1 year ago. Then I took the courage and started doing that. I started doing that in Italian. Then I moved to Houston, where I'm currently based, and I switched to English, and it was so painful. Like the first videos, I didn't want to publish any video. Like I felt ashamed because of, English is not my first language. I don't speak like a native speaker. I always see what is wrong in my video rather than what is right. But at a certain point I said, you will never improve, you will never get better if you don't try and if you don't publish. So I started publishing a lot of videos in English, and actually it went very good, and the result was very good. um, I still I'm still trying to improve on the English side, and I still make like a lot of mistakes in my videos, but that's good. That's good. And actually talking and speaking English in my videos allowed me to be here right now with you and to reach much more people from all around the world and help more people. That was great.
Absolutely. This actually brings a spotlight on this very important issue,
Mm-hmm.
the language being a barrier when we are communicating with people, right? And your story highlights how important it is to challenge yourself and overcome that barrier if you really want to reach out to people and make an impact. And on this note, what is your message for the startups in the oil and gas industry and also the younger generation in the industry? How should they thrive through this crisis? How should they respond to it? What are some of the things that they should really focus upon at this point of time? What would matter in the bigger picture, and what goes beyond this crisis?
That's very interesting. And I think, besides, let's say, your business model, besides what you're doing, and we can see that in the trend in the startups and also in the very large corporations, what's at the end of the day, what stays beside your business model? Once you have a good business model, once you're profitable, or kind of, besides some technical decisions, what it matters is the image and what you represent for the world. Say the impact that you want to have in the world, the story that people tell about you. And now let me take an example. Of course, they're not a startup anymore, but they were still a startup. Almost, they were one of the most important startup, Airbnb. So
Yes.
we know it was extremely hard hit by the crisis.
Right.
They're trying to change a little bit, to adjust a little bit the business model to this crisis. They have changed. They're trying to help with first line workers. They improved a lot all the experience and virtual experiences, which was something they didn't have before. But what will stay after this crisis about Airbnb for people is the way they treated their employees. So this is, they had to fire 1/4, 25% of their workforce. What they did, so Brian Chesky, the CEO, first thing that he did was like this very emotional and moving long letter that he wrote to the employees.
Right.
Then he said, okay, for all the people that we need to let go, we are giving you uh, at least 3 months, then to a maximum of 4 or 5 months of full pay.
Mm-hmm.
Health insurance, full coverage for 1 year. And we're opening a new page in our website where we are like sponsoring you and putting your resume so that other companies can come and see how good you are. Plus, because you need your computer to work, all of you can keep the company MacBook that we gave you.
Right.
So, and Airbnb will thrive again. I'm sure it will rise again, and eventually it will IPO. It will go public, and I'm sure that it will be an extremely important company in the years to come. But what will stay about this crisis, how they navigate this crisis, was the impact that they wanted to have on people, and how human, let's say, this story probably will resonate even more. So I think that even in the oil and gas, where we're not so used to tell stories,
Mm-hmm.
and to brand our companies on a personal way, let's say, startups can do this. Startups can be much more human, much more easygoing, much more fresh, with regards to the big corporations of the oil and gas. So that's, I think the story that they will tell is it's something that will make the difference for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what about the students, the younger generation who are wrapped up in this anxiety and feeling demotivated by the whole environment? What should they really focus on?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I'm talking to many students. It is a problem, let's say, because it's a huge double crisis. We have a global pandemic and we have a downturn in oil price. We have everything.
Right.
So the good side is that I don't think it can go any worse. So you are facing the best, the worst that could happen. One thing is to be patient, because probably the process of looking for a job will take you months instead of weeks. It can happen,
Mhm.
especially right now. Try to improve your social presence, your resume, everything. Try to be prepared. Why not try to use this time to work on something about yourself, some other skills, and to work maybe on your network. You want to work in the oil and gas industry, you are a fresh graduate, why don't you start publishing on LinkedIn, connecting with the right people, and start publishing articles, or why not videos, slides, whatever, when you maybe take some news, something that happened in the oil and gas world, and you just comment on that, and you just share information with people, and you start to give something to people, creating value for them, and showing that you actually have some skills, um, something concerning your field of study. So I would say, don't just wait for companies to reach out for you or to answer to your CV, but actually use LinkedIn to publish, to create content, to show the world what are your skills, which are the things you're interested in doing, and putting yourself out there. That could be a good use of this time. And of course, courses and other extra activities, why not?
Right, right. And these are some very important points that our audience can take home and work upon actually. And everyone who is listening to this, I would request you to connect with Pietro. If you're not already connected with him, do check out his amazing YouTube channel, Tales of Startup. There's a lot to learn, a lot of inspiring messages, and I am sure you will get a lot of value through the content that he's putting out there, because that is for you after all. Thank you so much, Pietro, for joining me today. It has been
Thank you, Garima.
absolute
Thank you.
pleasure talking to you, and I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing, because you're helping so many people out there.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure. And again, the best of luck for you with your interviews and your project. I really love it. And it was my pleasure, for real. Thank you.